No, you're great. I mean,
Tell me more.
now you're outshining me. No. Hey, Natalie.
Hey, Dabito.
Yay,
This
so
is
excited to
like-
be here.
We're here.
Yes, call me Dab.
Okay,
Yes.
I will.
Because I'll be dabbing.
Call me Nat.
I'll be dabbing my oily face.
Me too.
Throughout this entire conversation. Yes,
We can
oily faces.
We'll
yes.
share our
Great, awesome. So, I want to know about how you got into design and what sparked joy in design for you.
If you think like way back, if I'm thinking way back into it, it's like, I think it's always been there, but laying kind of lower down. Or it started with art. Art has always been my passion, and I grew up in a Victorian house where my dad was constantly restoring it and changing it. And I saw something about the art and design combined, and it brought this like new light to what you do to a home to make it your own.
Jealous. I wish I grew up in a Victorian home. Oh my God, that's so special.
It's not as glamorous as you think. It's very cold sometimes.
That sounds beautiful and magical.
What about you?
I grew up in a really small house, cookie cutter, 3-bedroom house with like 9 people, multi-generation immigrant family. And I shared the same bedroom with my mom and my sister and my dad.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember in middle school just taking furniture pieces apart and moving them around, assembling them, and trying to find like a nice layout. I always loved how to make a space flow better and serve us and function better. So like sometimes I still think, am I a designer? Am I doing this? Right?
I don't know if you started having this grand goal, but I didn't. I just wanted to connect with like other people in the design community, because I'm like, I am geeking out about this stuff, and my friends could get, they didn't care. So, so here I am, like, who are my people who actually enjoy this too?
Yeah,
and it felt like a great outlet to do that. And the way it kind of organically grew, and I met people that I loved too in the design community that were doing something similar or exciting, just kind of drove me to this place.
Right. So when did you actually started like to own and feel like a designer?
I think I'm still struggling with that. To be
Really?
honest. Yeah. I mean,
Girl, you got a light collection, you have a book, you're a designer.
but when you think
You have
of
a
something,
show. Yes.
but when you start with like
Aw.
rearranging your Barbie house
Yeah.
in their living scape, and you're doing
Right.
something that's really fun for you, and you're not doing the traditional path into design, like I'm not certified, and then you're doing it and people are
Yeah.
hiring you, you can't really believe this is happening. So I guess now, while I do call myself a designer, there's so many levels and different avenues to become a designer that I don't think there's just like one straight route. You?
I've studied interior design, but no formal training
Same.
in colleges. So for a big chunk of I started blogging in 2010, up until now, I don't think I considered myself an interior designer until maybe 5 years ago.
Early milestone project. Do
Early
you have one?
milestone, yes. I think it was in 2014 when I moved to New Orleans. And I finally had the opportunity to do this huge makeover, working with a big brand. And I still remember standing in that room and go, oh my God, I did this.
Yes.
I did this. What about you?
One of my first clients was this high-powered lawyer, and she was amazing. And she let us do our thing in a way that felt like very creative and natural. So I got to go to California and bring in these artists from different areas that I loved. Liz Cameron, Rachel
Oh, wow.
Jackson,
Awesome.
Frankie Zombie.
Yeah.
And all these other artists on paintings and stuff. I think that really started my career as kind of its niche of like art forward design.
Yeah.
And that was a huge milestone for me, that I got to do something that incorporated my two loves, art and design.
Art can also be a lot of things, right? Like for me, lighting can be a way of
100%.
I love chandeliers, and I don't actually use them. Like I think they're just beautiful objects.
They're sculptural.
They're sculptural, and they're just like a work of art. Like your beautiful pendant here. What's this baby called?
This is Madeline, named after my daughter.
Oh. So for all your names for your light collection, are they like named after like someone special?
All my friends, and then my daughter.
I love that.
What about yours?
I decide to name mine after like light in like different Asian languages.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I know when we shoot photography, it's always like lights are off.
Yep.
But like at the end of the day, in the evening, like as you can see, we need lights on, you know, and we got to find a way to like balance lighting. It's so important to like really know how.
It's like ambiance, mood.
Yes.
But even in the light of day, when you don't have your lights on, they provide an artistic element of just like sculptural or filling a space in a way that feels connected to the rest of the room.
I don't want to get into like too woo-woo or feng shui stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really how you feel in a space. And I think oftentimes a lot of people don't ask themselves that, like when you're in space, oh, how do you feel? Lighting is so important in that way as well. Like, how do we create balance with like, you know, nightstand lamps and like ceiling lights?
Agreed. I feel like a lot of new homes now rely on can lights.
Ooh.
And while can lights have their place, there is a very almost harsh overhead, very bright effect where if you have levels of lighting from ceiling lighting to floor lamps to table lamps, you can create different moods and ambiances depending on the time of the day or the mood that you're trying to achieve.
Right.
I also think it's like room to room, right?
Yes.
In the bathroom, I want nice, direct, brighter light in order to see what I'm doing when I'm putting on my makeup. And there are certain moods that I want different in different rooms, like your bedroom. I want lower lighting when I go to bed and have a little bit of like that reading light that comes from sconces or lower lighting like table lamps. And that is why lighting is so important in creating not just a mood, but giving you the needs that you need at that moment.
It needs to serve you. It needs to function. Like if it's not bright enough in the bathroom, if it's too bright in the bedroom, like that's why we have dimmers, right? Like I think dimmers are important.
They are. I think there's always a starting point of like color.
Yes. Oh my God, color. Yes.
Right?
Color is that's
our
just
brand.
Who
we are.
Who we are. We just love color.
Right. I used to collect all this Coca-Cola memorabilia. I loved the red. I love the red with that white typography. And I know that's hard for people, but using pops of red into your room can really surprise you.
Yes.
And delight in a way that you wouldn't typically be drawn to. If like you were just showing someone, how do you feel about this red vase? They'd be like, oh, I don't love red.
Right.
But when you see it in a space balanced against like a robin's egg blue, it becomes something entirely different. It's that balance of color. And I think through art and all my lessons growing up, just seeing the color wheel and how opposites attract and they balance each other out. It's just, there's so many configurations that are surprising and actually really delightful.
Color is really when I start to think about like stories, because colors are so meaningful. If I paint a room aubergine, like that reminded me of this bomber jacket that my mom bought me.
Bomber jacket.
You know, back in 1987 into
Nostalgia.
a space. Exactly. Like it's always that's how I approach my clients. I always try to attach memories and stories to color.
Mm-hmm. Like you want to be surrounded by things that make you feel happy and comfortable and joyful. And if you think about the times in your life you've been those things, you can attribute it to colors.
Right. Exactly. We were introduced to color as kids, right?
Crayons.
Like crayons, building blocks.
Yes.
I mean, Lisa Frank.
Yes.
All of the
Lisa
beautiful.
Frank.
I mean, hello. I mean, now we're dating ourselves, but you know.
But in the best way possible.
Yes. I mean, God, those color combinations were so bananas, like psychedelic even. Like it just blew my mind. So it's just interesting and funny how along the journey somehow we like lost our love for color or we just
I think became like scared of it. Or we became adults and we're like, well, as adults.
Yeah.
Because when I moved him into the big Victorian house and we were house poor, I was like, the only thing we can do to change this is to paint all the walls. I'm like, well, here I am in my adult house. So I'm going to paint all the walls agreeable gray. It was the life. It was
agreeable gray.
It was the decade of agreeable gray.
Yeah.
Right. But then I like agreeable gray over that first year. Like I'm just like does not agree with me.
And
then I slowly started experimenting and changing it to actually feel like me. But I think a lot of people feel this pressure to be like an adult and taken seriously. And
classic, timeless, needs to be
Oh, I would
Neutral.
never want to
Why?
change it.
Yes.
Ever.
I know.
But like,
Why?
it's you. This is your house.
I know.
And paint is just paint.
It's just paint. We can always, I mean, I just painted my office the 4th time in the year because why not?
Right.
For me, designing is just another fancier word, or decorating is just a fancier word for celebrating you and your space in your life, you know, seeing your trajectory.
I also think there is something to the Tastemaker collection that allows us to take our own personal journeys and what has influenced us over the years to create collections that feel really authentic and individual to who we are. And I love that celebration of like, this is a combination of things I was influenced by over the years or just interested in.
Right.
Connected with.
Yeah.
And then bringing that to a collection is just deeply personal, and having all of the Mitzi collections being so individually different yet tied together in, you know, their finishes and quality makes them really harmonious.
I love that you have yellow in your lights. I was so jealous. I was like, oh my God, I love that so much. I want yellow too.
I think this is one of my favorite. I love the mandolins, my daughter. But this lamp in particular.
It's so playful.
Being able to have the colors and a little bit of that mid-century flair, it just feels so delightful to me.
It really is.
It's a happy lamp. And I think even people who are scared of incorporating color on their walls or in their furniture, you can still add a really fun pop.
You're right.
By adding just a really cute table lamp with some color.
You can build your color confidence by just one thing at a time. Start small.
Yes.
One lamp, maybe one accent wall.
Pillows.
And then pillows, and then go all out.
And if you have a color on the walls that's really a saturated color, like how pretty is your lamp against that? Because that is a moment.
Yeah. Right. You can just, you can have that contrast and pop against like a colorful wall.
And it shines.
Right. Because I have so many colorful things. Like sometimes you still need a ground. You need a breather.
Yes.
So I love a black or a white, just you know, object, or you know, pillows or lamps.
It grounds it.
It really does. Like for pendants, I do love like a white nice pendant to just give some breathing room, like breathing space, you know.
And same with adding metal to a space. Adding a little. I always love that balance of like color, black and white, some metal, texture. That to me is like a whole moment.
I think people don't realize that. Like, oh my God, I'm afraid of like color and how metals work and how things, I'm like, or wood tones. Like, honestly, the more you mix, the merrier it is. Like,
I like the moment where you're like, okay, maybe these are the rails, but maybe I'm going to break them.
And that's design. I think that's how you make it modern, like contemporary.
That's how you make
know?
It you.
Right.
Okay, I don't know how you approach clients that are scared of color, but my favorite thing to ask them is, can you show me your favorite dress? Something you feel really beautiful in. And it's always interesting because it always ends up being a color.
Really?
Or a pattern. Or something that, like maybe their walls are gray, but then they bring out this beautiful blue dress. You're like, you love this color. You love how it looks on you, and you love how it feels.
Right. When you attach really meaningful stories, they're reminded and they're surrounded by these beautiful moments that remind them of who they are, where they've been, their heritage. You're celebrating your heritage, your culture, your grandma, and all of those things. Sometimes I like get teary-eyed sitting in my living room, and I look around, I'm like, oh my God, that's an object from, you know, my grandpa, and like, oh, that one piece of artwork I made when I was so depressed, and look how far I've come. Like, oh my God, I made it. Like, you know, just understanding, just to see how you've grown.
The human interaction part comes from working with the client. And that is interior design when you're working with clients.
Yeah.
It's about understanding who they are, what their needs are, and how to take those things and incorporate them, or maybe even nudge them in a way that they might not have been previously comfortable with because they were too scared.
Or sometimes they think they were this style, and then it turns out, wait a minute.
You can be all of the things.
And you can be. That's the beauty. That's design, is holding their hands,
it's
guiding
emotional.
them. It is.
This is like my biggest thing, right? It's like you're done with the design. It's the reveal. I always get really nervous. And then I'm like waiting on pins and needles to get their reaction.
You saw them. You saw them. You helped.
Yes, you saw them.
You helped create their narrative, their story.
It's them, and they don't even realize it until they walk into this space.
Yep.
And they're like, you saw me, just like you said.
Yep.
Like, that is a beautiful moment.
Cheers to us. Yes. and more color and more maximalism. That is what I'm excited about. I want to see more of that.
We just want more.
Yes. More
life, more joy, more happiness.
More color, all of those things.
More really cool lighting.
More cool lighting. Yes.